Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of baseball.
And the Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Party on Broad. Our Sixers draft coverage continues, and today we've got a really interesting prospect to dissect today. And joining me today is the man, the myth, the legend. He is Tiago. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at TScabia. Tiago, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, man. It's good to be back. We talked about a couple of ball handlers, a couple of shooters, and now we're going to talk about a couple of high-flying bigs, swingmen, forward types that the Sixers should still be in the market for, given their circumstances going to next year. So it's exciting.
Yep. All right, today we are talking about Greg Brown, a high-flying wing/big that does a lot of really good things that you are like that are jaw-dropping, and then some other things are like, I don't know. But like Tiago said earlier in our chat, like this is the ultimate boomer bust pick. Let's start the tape. Tiago, what are his strengths? Let's start there.
Well, first of all, just some background on Greg Brown, because he's a really high pedigree player, so highly recruited out of Texas, and started the year as a starter for Texas. And there was a lot of talk about him being a lottery pick, a top 15 pick. You see why on tape, right? So you're looking at it right now. The athleticism, the bounce, the range, it just like screams off the tape. So if you're watching, like you see the shooting range, it's there. Like there's NBA shooting range there. And then just playing that roll man cutting role in the pick and roll with Texas, it's something that is really exciting because he's had a tremendous catch radius. And, you're talking about, a system where you have a pick and roll ball handlers and you're running that kind of downhill system. He could be like an ideal pick and roll threat in that environment. So, all those things, I mean, you're thinking, wow, how can this guy be talked about as a potential, late first, perhaps even second round pick? And you start diving into the tape and, he eventually started losing playing time over his counterpart, Kai Jones. So Kai Jones, a guy now who's being talked about over as a lottery pick over Greg Brown. So from that standpoint, you start looking at the tape, and we go into detail more about what his negatives are. But he eventually ended up playing 6 minutes in an NCAA tournament game, which Texas lost. So he went from like a highly regarded player to pretty much a player who was not even being looked at anymore towards the end of the season. So but the strength, and you can talk a bit more about the strength. I don't know what you saw on tape, Chris. I would be interested to see, but there's a lot of stuff there to talk about from an ability to do a lot of things on the court.
For me personally, it's his ability to roll to the basket in the pick and roll. That's what screams off the tape. His potential in a pick and roll as a big, whether that's just attacking the rim or that's sliding and popping for three. Like this guy really seems to have those traits that could thrive in a Daryl Morey type of system. So we'll see. We will see. So then obviously defense, definitely he could definitely switch on the perimeter. What do you think is his ceiling there as a defensive prospect?
It's pretty high. So I think from the standpoint of being a switchable player, I think he can be. I don't see him being as quick laterally as some other switchy players are in the NBA. So you do see him struggle with quickness when he has got to get on the perimeter. As a rim protector, he's got tremendous feel. I mean, and range and bounce. I mean, you see it on the tape. He can cover a lot of ground. He's got a super long wingspan. So, but, he does struggle with power, and he's not a guy that can play very powerful right now. And I do wonder if is able to add more bulk to his body. He's got more like a narrow frame, skinny legs, skinny shoulders, and that does not tend to lead to adding more bulk. I mean, he's still pretty young. There's a chance that he may just grow more and be able to add that muscle. But again, this is a guy who you have to be very careful about how you deploy him, because when you watch him in space as expense defender, he gets lost a lot of times to switch. I ultimately think that's the reason why he ended up not playing anymore at Texas. Is just that they couldn't handle with him, having him on the perimeter, defending guys in space. So the potential is there because all the tools are there for a high impact defender, deflections, blocks, steals, but it's got to come together for him. Right now, it's not all there, but again, the pedigree is 5 stars.
Yeah, rebounding percentage is terrific. Block percentage is but you look at like him defending the post, it ain't gonna happen.
No, not in the NBA.
Not in the NBA for sure. Let's talk about weaknesses, Tiago.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about a couple of things. So first of all, the shot. The range is there from a shooting standpoint, but he shot, I think, 29% on. Let me just check double-check. Right? Yep. Sorry, 33%, but very low volume. So, if you break down the shooting mechanics, it's clunky. He's got a little bit like a shot put type of a shot, which may not lead to very consistent results in the NBA. And then from the standpoint of playmaking, right? So you're talking about a guy who can perhaps play small forward for you, like for that guy to add ball handling element to your offense. And while he does some interesting things as a ball handler, it's just not all there. I mean, he drives with very little feel for passing lanes, very little feel for making, easy, quick decisions. He's just kind of a straight line drive player. Draws a lot of cheap fouls, offensive fouls, and really doesn't have a great feel how to orchestrate on offense. So can he develop that at the next level? I'm interested to see. If he can, now you're talking about something that's very, very intriguing because, you have a guy at that size, at that athleticism, running some offense for you. That would be huge. But right now, it's really about, like you said, Chris, playing in space, playing around the rim, attacking the glass, catching lobs, and give you perhaps a little bit spot up shooting element on the corner. But that's pretty much where he's at right now with his development, I think.
Good morning, Ben. Good morning. What's going on, dude? Thanks for joining. It's morning over here. I look right at the turnovers and the assists. 60 turnovers last season compared to 10 assists. Like you said, Tiago, I mean, NBA teams are clearly going to know what they have in this guy. It's just going to take some time to kind of get it out of him. He's going to definitely need a lot of seasoning in the NBA, but the potential is absolutely there. So let's get into fit with the Philadelphia 76ers. Can we just insert him over Mike Scott right now, or do we have to wait?
I mean, you could go through the 60 players in the draft board. You can insert over Mike Scott.
Exactly.
And we're very happy. I mean, the fit, right? So the Sixers have a guy in Paul Reed who they're grooming to be kind of like a stretchy, rangy forward, perhaps even a stretch big, right? And we're going to assume that Dwight Howard is probably not going to come back next season or ever. So when you look at the Sixers, what they would need defensively out of like a, stretch 4, stretch 5, small forward type player. You're looking for a guy who can defend pick and roll and really, really thrive in space, kind of defending pick and roll. So one of the things that I've noticed around like Dwight Howard in particular is the fact that, man, he just not have the range anymore. Like he's just very stiff, very slow. When teams put him in that pick and roll action, he just can't recover anymore. They're just based on, his age and wear and tear. And the question I have is Paul Reed that guy? Because Greg Brown is a much higher pedigree player than Paul Reed. I mean, Paul Reed has been phenomenal so far with the Sixers, and all indications lead to believe that he's going to be a future piece with the organization. But I don't necessarily think Paul Reed is a slam dunk fit for the Sixers moving forward. And, the shooting with Paul Reed may or may not translate as well. So all this to say that I think that if the Sixers are in a position, they were the 28th pick in the draft, 29th pick of the draft, and that Greg Brown is on the board, it may make sense for them to go this route and have somebody else in the system they can root to be a backup 4, a backup 5, and kind of a swingman type of player. Because, Paul Reed, if you stack Greg Brown with Paul Reed in college, like from a pedigree standpoint, like Greg Brown is another level of Paul Reed. So again, right now, Paul Reed is well on his way to become an NBA player from everything he's shown, but that may not be in the stores for him moving forward. And then you have somebody else like Greg Brown who could potentially, in a couple years, kind of be groomed into that role.
Yeah, talk about Paul Reed, because that's like the first name that comes off, the top of my head when we're talking about Greg Brown. Kind of similar build. I think Paul Reed, they're both kind of straight line drivers. They're never going to be ball handlers. But I definitely think, Paul Reed definitely brings a little bit more when it comes to the ball handling. 50% of his turnovers were in transition. So this guy, like when he's dribbling up the court, that can't happen. And when you look at the Blue Coats offensive system, there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of running up and down, high pace, high tempo offense there with the Blue Coats, which we would assume Greg Brown would definitely spend at least a year there. Any other final thoughts before you wrap this up, man?
Yeah, just one more point on that. Like from a rim protection, rebounding, like range standpoint, I do think Greg Brown can potentially be a more impactful player than Paul Reed. But again, these are all projections, and like when you watch Greg Brown on tape, man, it's like this guy does 500 different things wrong, and then he will do like one thing right, and like, oh my god, this is incredible. Yeah. So again, the Sixers tend to gravitate more towards players that are more seasoned in college, not so much one and done. Tyrese Maxey just kind of being like a one-off this year. They should go for more seasoned players. Paul Reed being one of them. So it would just be interesting to see, because the boom aspect of this pick is pretty high. Like, if you were to hit on a player like this late in the draft, first round, that is like a Tyrese Maxey type steal that we could potentially be talking about here with the Sixers in the NBA draft.
Yeah, you got to think Daryl Morey definitely likes this kid. The rebounding percentage, the rim protection. He's got some ability to space the floor there. There's no doubt we'll see if the Sixers kind of invest in this kind of prospect with a ton of raw potential. So we will see. But I could easily also see Sixers fans on Twitter just blowing up when they see like a crazy block from Greg Brown with the Blue Coats and not really understanding like anything else. They just see like one play and Greg Brown. But anyway. That is Tiago. Make sure over here. Nope, over there. Yeah. It's backwards. I always forget. That is Tiago. Please follow him on Twitter at tscabia. For all of our draft content, you can check it out on thepainted.com from Tiago or here at the Painted Lines YouTube channel. If you guys love the Sixers, please give this video a like. We do breakdowns every single Saturday morning. For Tiago, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh man, Embiid just posterized Russell